Hello and welcome to part 45 of this video series. In this video, we will learn about custom exceptions. .NET provides various kind of exceptions. On this screen, you can see all the type of exceptions that are possible in C#. You can see divide by zero exception, duplicate with object exception, field access exception, and overflow exception. So every exception is noted here, and you will see there is a long list of exception that is possible in C#. But there can be some scenarios which might not be covered using these exceptions. Let's discuss some of those scenarios. Let's say you are creating an application, and in that application you want to check the user has logged in or not. If the user has logged in already and user is trying to open a new browser window and trying to log in there, that time we have to check and throw the exception. For this scenario, we don't have any inbuilt exception. So in this case, we have to design our custom exception, or we can say we have to create a user defined exception. Second example can be, let's say in our application, we want to limit the user only with age above 12. So we don't want anyone who is having age below 12 accessing our application. This kind of exception can be thrown using custom exceptions. So let's open up the Visual Studio and let's try to create some custom exceptions and understand it. Okay, I have opened up my Visual Studio, and in my main method, I have written some code. First, I'm asking the user to provide their age. And once the user has entered the age, I'm converting that to an integer and storing it in age variable. Now the requirement is I need to throw an exception if the age is less than 12. For this, we have to create an custom exception. Creating a custom exception is very simple because exception is after all a class. We just have to create a class. Let's call it is not valid exception, and we have to inherit exception class in this. Now this will create a custom exception, and the best practice is whenever you are creating a custom exception, we have to end it with the exception word so that in our program we can see all those classes which are actually used for creating custom exception. Okay, so we have created our custom exception. Let's see how we can use this in our code. I will check if age is less than 12, then what I can do, I can throw new age not valid exception. Fine. Else we can print console.writeLine your age is whatever the age we are getting. Let me put a $sign in front of it, and let's run the program by pressing Ctrl F5. Our program is running and it is asking us to provide the age. Let's enter 11. So 11 is of course less than 12. This time we will throw the age not valid exception. If I press enter here, you can see we are getting one unhandled exception, age not valid exception, and we can see the line number also. At line number 17 this exception was thrown, correct? But if you remember in the last videos, we were able to pass down our custom message if you want. So let's try to pass some custom message in this constructor. Age must be greater than or equal to 12. But if you notice here, we are getting the error message. If you read the error message, it says is not valid exception class does not contain a constructor that takes one parameter. Because we are passing a parameter to our constructor, so we need to create a constructor that can accept a string parameter. So let's go ahead and create it. Public is not valid exception, and within it let's pass a parameter message, and along with that we need to use the base keyword, and we should be invoking the base class constructor, which is nothing but the constructor of exception class, right? If I run the program now and provide some age, this time you can see we are getting our custom message here, age must be greater than or equal to 12, right? And if you remember from the last video, we were able to pass down the details about the inner exception also. To do that, what we can do, we can create one more constructor. Let me copy and paste it here. And the second parameter, this time I will make it as exception and I will name it as inner exception. And this time in the base keyword, I will pass inner exception also. And guys, when we are calling this base keyword, what we are doing, we are actually going to the base class, exception class, and invoking the constructor of the base class. Okay. So now this time, let me comment it out and try to pass some inner exception also. I can say new exception. I can give a message inner exception. Okay, let's run the program again. Age 7. This time you can see we are getting our age not valid exception. Along with that, you can see we have the inner exception also. So we have made our custom exception to have a message. We can provide our custom message. Along with that, we can provide a message and we can provide the details about the inner exception also. Now, but if you try to do something like that, throw new is not valid exception and you're not passing any argument, because we have provided a parameterized constructor. Now we don't have access to the parameterless constructor. That's why we need to have a constructor that will take no parameter also. Let's create it public is not valid exception, and this time we will call the base constructor without any parameter, and that's it. You will notice the error is gone, and if I build the application will build successfully. So let's summarize what we have learned till now. If none of the already existing .NET exception adequately describe the problem, we can go for custom exceptions. And here are the steps that we have performed in this video. We have created a class and we have inherited System.Exception class. We need to provide a public constructor that takes a string parameter if we want to provide some custom message to our custom exception. And if you want to provide inner exception, then we need to create one more constructor that can accept inner exception as the second argument. If you remember here, we had these three constructor. One was not accepting any parameter, meaning it was parameterless constructor. Second one is taking one custom message and passing that down to the base class, which is nothing but the exception class. You can see System.Exception class. And third constructor is the one where we can pass message along with that inner exception detail. And guys, if you notice in Visual Studio, when you create an object of the exception class, you can see here there are three overloads available. You can see one of three. First one, which is not taking any parameter. And if I click on this small arrow button, it will show me the second option, and it is taking one argument, that is string message. And if I click on it again, this will show me the third option, that is nothing but the constructor that is taking custom message. Along with that, we can pass on the inner exception details also. So that's it for this video, guys. In the next video, we will learn what are the bad practices that we should avoid while using exceptions.